Oh, it's awful here.
I've never seen the like of it, and I hope I never to see that again.
It's absolute devastation.
Hurricane Irma would be the most powerful storm to hit the Caribbean in living memory. The UK sends a hurricane and disaster relief team to the region every year. This year, it was Royal Fleet Auxiliary Mounts Bay. They faced one of the toughest ever challenges taken on in that role. But in order to be useful for what the military called Op Rumen, they had to stay in one piece.
We were as close as we could possibly get whilst still safeguarding the ship and the 200 people that are on board.
There's no point in turning up to a disaster with damaged people, damaged equipment. So I held at a safe distance. It wasn't that comfortable on board. The swell was quite high from the hurricane. So we sat to the south, and then when the sea started abating, we came in.
The British overseas territories that were the priority for Mounts Bay are hundreds of miles apart. And hundreds of miles means days of sailing, even at top speed. Island hopping by sea is not like catching a flight.
We were within 20 hours into Anguilla of the hurricane striking there. So we were there the next day. The Wildcat launched at first light, and then we started landing personnel ashore to see where we could help, and we helped at the hospital and a few other areas.
Having delivered initial aid in Anguilla, Mounts Bay then helped in the British Virgin Islands, but was soon on the move again to the Turks and Caicos Islands.
A lot of it's already being rebuilt, really.
The Wildcat is a strong element in Mounts Bay's toolbox.
So we've got really powerful engines, a lot more powerful than we used to, so we've been lifting tons of water and delivering it to much needed communities quite easily. Also, a massive benefit of this aircraft is its size. We are quite a small helicopter, but it means that we can land in a lot of places that bigger aircraft can't reach.
We joined the Wildcat's flight from Turks and Caicos Airport as it worked on the operation.
It's not just been used for dropping tons of supplies ashore, but from this vantage point 500 feet up, they've been able to survey the islands, assess the damage and feed that information back to command and control.
What's that? First sortie. I've kept the flight on.
There was a lot of destruction the hurricane had gone through, so there was a lot of damage to buildings, a lot of debris. There was the power plant just to the south of the airfield. They had a solar farm that was completely shattered.
It's something that I've never seen before. First time being in an area like this. Having spoken to Royal Marines that have been out in Afghanistan, they've drawn comparisons and said it's worse. In terms of flying, we're trained for warfare, but this is what we're doing. We're saving lives and delivering aid to people. So it's been really rewarding. We've flown a lot of hours, but the guys are keen to continue working and help where we can.
The Wildcat has been incredible. The serviceability, we haven't dropped one sortie yet due to serviceability. The engineers have been incredible with it. The first 3 days of operations, we managed to do 23 hours of flying. Just to put that into context, in a month we'd normally do a maximum of 15 hours. That's our currency. So that was in just 3 days we managed to do that much flying. It was very, very busy operations.
While the Wildcat teams were overhead, Marines prepared to go ashore. Then they went on to the islands.
We've currently deployed the Halo Troop ashore from Mounts Bay. We did that yesterday to support the 56 Royal Marines who are already stationed here in Grand Turk. We've got groups of people all over Turks and Caicos, so we've got up to 50 packs in Grand Turk, 20 on South Caicos and another 30 in Provo. We came ashore to support them with our heavy equipment, and that was basically to clear stuff shoreside, so falling down pylons, clearing up the schools so the kids can get back because they've got exams coming up. That was the main effort.
Oh, they've been around, they've been doing some cleanup, they've been supplying some water to some needy folks, so it's a good effort on their part.
4 days in the Turks and Caicos comes to an abrupt end when news of another storm arrives.
We're now recovering back onto ship with Hurricane Maria that's coming in. We're going to head south and then hopefully tracking behind Maria.
A briefing at 5 a.m. the next day explains what's going on.
So the big picture, Jose's still there, and she's tracking northwards, coming out of our area. She's giving lots of dangerous surf onto the coasts of America. Maria, she's starting to interact with the outside lying islands today.
So it's on its way towards the British Virgin Islands, which was already hit by Hurricane Irma last week. We expect it to make landfall there sometime tomorrow. So Mounts Bay is on its way down, staying out of the path of the hurricane so that we can come up behind it and offer support to the islanders afterwards. It's certainly going to be a Cat 3 hurricane. It might even be a Cat 4. So winds in excess of 100 miles an hour, maybe 120.
The prospect for Mounts Bay was to start again.
The strong winds have the possibility of damaging everything that's already damaged. There's lots of debris around from Irma, and so that could fly around, and all the temporary structures that we've already built and tried to repair could all be damaged again.
For now, it's a case of waiting for the storm to pass. Even the galleys on Mounts Bay face pressure. The ship's company has increased to 200, with Royal Marines, aircrew, Army engineers and medical staff. As they get closer to the BVI, preparations ramp up.
So the task in today has just been first braiding the vehicles, making sure that they're ready to roll out for tomorrow. So it'll be just checking over everything on the vehicles, cranes, the tippers, the buckets, all the hydraulics and all that sort of stuff, make sure that they're ready.
But there are some parts of the mission you can't prepare for.
I had a request from the US Coast Guard to investigate a EPIRB, which is an emergency radio position indicator beacon that had gone off to the southeast of Vieques, which is an island off Puerto Rico. We then looked at where we were and turned the ship towards Vieques, which is about 3 hours away.
2 adults and 2 children are missing. A search and rescue or SAR mission begins.
One of our best assets for searching is the Wildcat, and they can search a big area in a short space of time.
Whenever we're at sea, we have a responsibility to react to any SAR situation. The aircraft is always 45 minutes away from being airborne, day or night, and we maintain that throughout our whole 7-month deployment. So we're always ready to respond to search and rescue as required. And once you hear a call like that, then everyone automatically, naturally wants to get involved.
The reports that had come in, I think the actual SAR operation had begun almost 24 hours before. So there was a real feeling that actually how likely is it that these people would have survived if the ship was in a bad state.
Within half an hour of the Wildcat being airborne, then it had located the wreck, which was very close to one of the beaches on Vieques.
We found a lot of debris that was on the beach surrounding the vessel. It was fully upside down, about 15 metres away from the beach.
We thought we'd put the winchman down on the ship. We left him there for 5 minutes or so.
He'd been making noise and banging on the hull to try and actually let people know that we were there.
With no response, the Wildcats returned to refuel.
With the noise of the waves that were crashing up against the wreck, then he didn't receive any response at the time. But later, when the Wildcat was coming back, a C-130 had flown over and seen 3 people on the upturned hull waving for help. So clearly the winchman that had been winched down had effectively raised awareness of somebody was in the area to help, and that's when they escaped from the wreck and climbed on the upturned hull.
While 3 were saved, 1 adult didn't make it.
Chris, the winchman, did a brilliant job. He took charge of everyone. He gave them a really good brief. And the boys they just did everything they were told to. Their mum was very emotional. She kind of broke down when she saw the aircraft, but we managed to get her in the back and calm her down a bit before we landed on.
I think the training that I did kicked in, and I just sort of did what I knew I had to do to help get the people to safety.
It's the first time I've actually managed to have any success in a search and rescue search phase, so I think it's something that I'll remember for quite a long time.
Off a small island near Puerto Rico, 216 Flight's Wildcat helicopter has pulled off a tense rescue mission. A mother and 2 young boys have been rescued from a shipwreck by the team from Royal Fleet Auxiliary Mounts Bay.
We talked to the mother of the family, and they were clearly trying to escape Hurricane Maria. Got themselves into the wrong area at the wrong time, in the way of the winds and the seas. There were some failures on their vessel as well, and effectively in trying to seek shelter, they were driven onto the shore where the ship turned over. The boat overturned during the night, so they were potentially in that wreck for a number of hours.
Back on track, they sailed to Tortola, one of 4 main islands that make up the British Virgin Islands.
So the first thing we'll need to do is to find out exactly what the situation on the ground is, who needs our help the most and what we can do. That'll probably include talking to the governor and talking to the troops that are already on the ground in Tortola.
The Wildcat is busy again. It's surveying the damage.
RFA Mounts Bay is kind of seen as the first 12 to 48 hours after a hurricane, and what we tend to do is get the Wildcat up for aviation recce of the island, see what's gone on and where we can best add effect. And then we'll get a specialised team ashore, whether that's the Hadar troop or engineers from the ship, and we'll focus on getting the water up and running, looking at the power distribution, just to get the island going again. We first went to Tortola, and we flew over to Jos van Dijk, Virgin Gorda and Anguilla just to see what the situation was on the ground.
There's 2 policemen on the island covering up to 300 people. There's no looting or anything, everyone seems happy. The biggest issue for them is comms, so they have 1 sat phone which they're running out of battery on, and they need to know when the ferry times are to get to Tortola to pick up fuel and food. Without that they have nothing to go on, so that's kind of their issues at the minute.
Have most people got food and water now?
Yeah, all the islands were restocked before Maria, but obviously time keeps passing by, we need to get more food and water into them. The issue on Anguilla specifically is they have a water plant, a desalinisation plant, but there's an issue with it. The police don't know what that issue is, so we're going to we've got some photos of it. We can take that back to the ship and get the specialists from the ship to look at it, and maybe even fly them in to try and fix it later on today. They said you've got another sat phone?
Yeah, I don't know how many minutes is on it.
Their main priorities are food and water, and the people on there have no comms to the other islands. So what we're doing is passing messages through Department for Disaster Management and the Governor to kind of get them built into the recovery plan so we can get aid to them as soon as possible. We've got plenty of guys in theatre now kind of liaising with DFID to get aid out to the most affected areas.
Previously a stunning holiday destination, the British Virgin Islands are now filled with soldiers, sailors, airmen and marines on clear-up duty. On the west side of the capital island, Tortola, we're driving to Long Beach. Assault engineers from 40 Commando Royal Marines are hard at work. They're creating an aid station.
When we came into this area here, we spoke to the locals and we said, because we believe that this is going to be a distribution centre for aid. And if that aid's got to be kept safe, dry and watertight, they haven't got anywhere other than this building here. We've assessed it, we've looked at it, and it's fit for purpose, and it will be fit for purpose by the time we leave. We've redesigned the roof, putting tarpaulins over it, making it watertight to the owner's consent. From there, once he's happy, this will now become the centre point for this part of Long Beach that they can distribute aid from. In the 24 years that I've been in the Royal Marines, there's nothing compared with this. Of all the disaster relief operations that I've done, this is a standalone. It's absolute, devastation on a scale you couldn't compare with anything I've seen before.
It's completely different to what we normally train for, so it's just the fact getting out the ground and it's how much the locals are appreciating us being out here at the same time. It's just glad to be here.
It's been 2 weeks since Hurricane Irma hit. The Marines are trying to improve living conditions.
Put a couple across there and then hammer it on like we did before. Hold the bottom out. Maybe we put a few.
I've never seen anything this bad. So there's a lady we met yesterday and she's had to move out of the house as there's no roof on it. It's completely soaked inside. So we're trying to get everything back up, get a roof on it so she can move back in.
Hiya! Hiya! Oh, sorry. Terrible.
At the moment, I think we're at a really critical point within the community here, within the Bay. Things are still very much touch and go. Persons are going by on what they can get day to day. Some persons have more than others. It really depends on whether your house was destroyed or not.
More help arrives with HMS Ocean.
So you're going to take a record and evacuate.
19 Alpha, step to the side. Grab yourself a bag wrap, grab yourself a ration pack. As soon as you've done that, line up here, ready to go out on the LVP.
By 7 a.m, the Royal Marines are ferrying them to port. This operation is a huge deployment of British military personnel.
Are you picking it up with the tripod? We should just put it over here for you. Yeah. We've got 100 of them for this first 50.
First 50?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the East End, progress is being made.
We just basically went around speaking to the locals and basically found out exactly what they wanted, a hand with and stuff like that. Everyone's basically been warm, friendly, and they actually told basically, you know, they just need a hand lifting, shifting a few bits and stuff like that.
The operation is in full swing. Further supplies are brought in from RFA Mounts Bay. Aid is now arriving by air and by sea. And surveys of the ground allow engineers to plan the best way forward. On RFA Mounts Bay, the Governor of the British Virgin Islands arrives to thank the crew.
I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you on behalf of everybody in the territory. I also spoke to the Palace as well, and Her Majesty, the Queen, relayed to me as her Governor here her gratitude to all those who came to her fellow citizens in the Virgin Islands. It has been a very challenging time for us, but it's been a huge comfort for all of us knowing that support has been there. Support was pre-positioned and support came back in very quickly straight after Maria. We had 2 Cat 5s in 2 weeks, which I'm still in my 1 month involved, so I think that's a bit of a record. We're hugely grateful for all you've done. Thank you.